The soft golden light of the setting sun spilled into Claire's suite, warming the stone floors and drapes that billowed gently in the evening breeze. She leaned against the balcony railing, gazing out at the waves. The sea stretched endlessly before her, a reflection of the restlessness she'd carried with her to this secluded coastal villa. She had come here alone, seeking peace after months of chaos, but the unexpected presence of Adrian had stirred something within her. Adrian owned the villa, though he seemed more like a part of the landscape. His sun-touched skin, the easy confidence in his movements, and the quiet, steady energy he carried. From their first meeting, there had been an unmistakable spark. His wit matched hers, his curiosity drew her out, and the way he looked at her made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. That evening, the quiet knock on her door startled her from her thoughts. She turned as Adrian stepped in, carrying a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. His open, linen shirt revealed just a hint of his tan chest, his presence filling the space effortlessly. "I thought you might enjoy some company," he said, his voice low, warm, and inviting. Claire smiled, her heart giving a small flutter. "You always seem to know what I need," she replied, letting her hand linger on the balcony railing for support. Adrian's eyes lingered on hers for a moment, a silent conversation passing between them. He stepped closer, setting the wine and glasses down on the small table by the balcony. "I'm still learning," he said softly, his tone carrying a quiet intensity. He poured them each a glass, and as he handed her one, their fingers brushed. The small touch was electric, sending a gentle heat through her. She took a sip, using the moment to calm herself. The quiet hum of the waves in the distance seemed to echo her thoughts, steady yet brimming with something deeper. "Claire," Adrian said, his voice a shade quieter now, as though he were treading carefully. "If I'm reading this wrong." Her lips curved slightly as she set her glass down. "You're not," she replied, her voice steady despite the quickening rhythm of her heart. Adrian stepped closer, his movements measured and deliberate, until the space between them was gone. His hand brushed lightly against hers, testing, seeking. When she didn't pull away, his fingers slid gently up to her wrist, his touch warm and sure. Claire's breath caught as she looked up at him, seeing in his eyes a mixture of certainty and hesitation, as though he was letting her guide the moment. When their foreheads touched, the quiet intimacy of it made the world outside blur. His other hand came up to cradle her face, his thumb tracing an achingly tender path along her cheekbone. "If this is too much," Adrian murmured, his voice barely audible. "It's not," she whispered back, her voice full of conviction. The closeness between them deepened. Adrian's hand moved to the curve of her back, pulling her gently closer. The warmth of his presence surrounded her, grounding her while simultaneously setting her free. His breaths matched hers, slow and measured, the silence between them charged but comforting. Claire rested her hand lightly against his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her palm. It was a simple touch, yet it carried the weight of a connection she hadn't expected to find. The breeze drifted in from the open balcony doors, carrying the scent of salt and flowers. The world felt timeless as they stood there, leaning into the unspoken understanding they shared. His fingers brushed along her arm, every movement unhurried and thoughtful, as though he wanted to memorize every detail of the moment. They sat together on the small sofa near the balcony, the wine forgotten on the table. Adrian leaned back, his arm draped along the edge of the cushions as Claire nestled into the space beside him. They talked quietly, their voices blending with the soft rhythm of the waves outside. The conversation wove between laughter and reflection, each word peeling back another layer of the walls they had built around themselves. "You're not at all what I expected," Adrian said, his voice tinged with admiration. Claire smiled, looking up at him. "Neither are you," she replied, her tone light yet sincere. The night deepened, and they stayed close, wrapped in a quiet intimacy that neither felt the need to rush. The stillness around them wasn't empty, it was full, heavy with the promise of something neither of them could fully name yet. As the first stars appeared in the night sky, Adrian reached for Claire's hand, his touch warm and grounding. She intertwined her fingers with his, feeling a sense of belonging she hadn't expected to find in this faraway place. "Stay," he murmured, his voice soft and steady. Claire met his gaze, her heart full. "I'm not going anywhere." And as the waves continued their eternal rhythm, they stayed in that quiet space together, letting the night wrap around them like the sea itself, a vast, endless embrace.